Hey everyone, my name is Andrew Warner. I'm the founder of Mixergy, where I interview entrepreneurs about how they built their businesses. I'm especially excited to have today's guest on because of an incident that happened in my house. And I've talked about this at conferences before. I think it's worth bringing up here. We ran out of dishwasher soap in our kitchen. And so I do what I always do. I went to Amazon Fresh to get new soap, and the soap that we happened to use, Method, was not there. And so I said, Olivia, I'm just going to get something else until they come back with Method, because I like Amazon Fresh, and I don't want to wait for Amazon Regular, because Amazon Fresh will come tomorrow. She said, no. I said, I'm just going to do this, and then we'll get the one we like later. She said, no. Don't you like how it looks on our counter, that it has the Method thing, the shape of it with it looks like a test tube or not a test tube, a beaker? I said, yeah, I do. But tell you what, we could just take the new stuff, put it in the old pump, and we're fine. He said, no. I said, what do you mean no? Who gives a fuck? And she goes, well, what we want is the thing that's good for the environment. I don't know what it's going to do, but it's also better for our health. I said, baby, we're just talking about fucking soap, right? He goes, yeah, but it's good. Just wait. We'll put the dishes in the dishwasher. You don't have to do it. I said, all right, fine. I don't give a rat's ass that much about the stuff. So filed it away. We eventually got it from Amazon Regular, which takes 2 days instead of 1 day. It was fine. And then my wife took me to something called Conscious Capitalism, an event here in San Francisco. I said, all right, I'm on a date with you. We're going to go out to see it. One of the co-founders of Method is there. I go, what is this thing with this freaking soap company that you're so into? She told me, look, this is the future. These companies really care about the environment. They care about your health. They care about the design. Don't you like design? I said, yeah, I do care about the design. I don't care that much about my health. I don't care about that much about the environment. I care about the design. Great. I was in there. These people, Eric, they love your freaking company. It's soap. And they love it. And I'm sitting there not paying attention to their love of your company. I go, this is what I always wanted for my company. I wanted to create something that people love this much, that they're coming to watch a guy who created something that they're buying and putting on their counter that 10 years ago they never would have paid attention to their competitor. Now they're buying it. So today I've got the co-founder of this company here with me. I have been fascinated by how he's done this. His name is Eric Ryan. He's a co-founder of Method. They offer earth-friendly cleaning products that just look really good in your house. I want to find out how he did this, why he decided to get into soap, why he's getting or how he got soap to change the way we buy, to change our buying habits. And this interview is sponsored by two great companies. The first will help you do email marketing right. It's called ActiveCampaign. The second will help you hire your next great developer or designer. It's called Toptal. First, Eric, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Great intro. First of all, why was Amazon out of stock?
You know what? They randomly do that with Fresh. Rice cakes too, they run out. And yeah, right. Maybe that's something for you guys to worry about more.
We're not doing our job.
It must feel good though to be in there, because I know your story. I know how hard it was to get into these different retailers, how you did it a lot personally. You know what? The story, I was looking at your face to see if this sounded like a weird story or something familiar. I thought I was picking up on some familiarity with the story. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank your wife. I don't know her, but she is amazing. Clearly, you married very lucky.
Thanks. Yes. Yeah. Let's go back then and understand your family. Your grandfather worked for Henry Ford. What did he do for Henry Ford?
Yeah,
or is it great-grandfather?
Yeah, great-grandfather dropped out of pharmacy school in Iowa, packed up, and moved to Detroit to work for Henry. At the time, they were paying $5 a day. And ultimately, he and my great-grandmother saved up enough money that when my grandfather was in college, he dropped out, and they started a machine and stamping company. And if you ever see M&M and 8 Mile, those giant presses that come down, that's essentially what they did. And they ran that into the 80s when, unfortunately, it was no longer competitive to make these types of parts in a lot of parts of the States.
So how did that influence your thinking about manufacturing and products?
I mean, for me, as a kid, my favorite thing to do if I didn't have school, it's so dorky, but I loved to go to work with my dad. And I would dress like him in the office, and we'd walk the plant together. And, so much of that was just grounded in my heritage. And I loved seeing physical things being made. And so for us, we opened up our plant in Chicago a couple of years ago. My family was there. It was just really emotional for us that we were back in the manufacturing business of making physical things.
And so, yeah, for me, it would be scary to manufacture. And partially it's because my dad used to manufacture women's clothing, and the headaches involved in that and the sorting and the manual labor turned me off. Why weren't you turned off to that? What was it about, do you think, the creation process that drew you?
It's a great question. And I hear this from people who are in tech or software, that like the idea of making a physical product seems so much more complicated than writing code. And I don't know, maybe just a maker at heart. I always found the idea of making something not scary because it is so tangible, and you have this finished product that you can touch and feel and look at and pass to other people. And at the end of the day, like, I made a great product or not.
People who are listening, and most people do listen, don't know you're sitting in a teepee inside your office.
Swinging chair.
Sitting on what kind of a chair?
Swinging chair.
A swing chair. Your hair looks interesting and ruffled. Your glasses look like something that would catch my attention. I feel like this creativity comes out of you even apart from work. Did you sense that growing up? Did you sense that before you started Method?
No, I wanted to be an accounting major at one time, and I worked for a CPA in high school. So I'm always a little left brain, right brain. And I think the creative side of what I do is something I got more comfortable with in my career as time has come on. But me, personally, I cannot create anything to save my life. So I surround myself with the most creative people I can find and try to create an environment where their work can really flourish. And then I guess at the end of the day, I get credit for their amazing work.
I see. So this is not you. Then what about the hair? What about the look? Is this something that you paid a stylist to help you come up with?
I got 3 kids. This is me just getting out the door in the morning.
You know what? Actually, I'm laughing at it, but I don't buy it because I've got photos of you, and you've got like this interesting haircut, even in the photos. But you're saying it just comes naturally. This is not something that you feel is specially worked on or looks good.
I guess I like to look a little disheveled. My daughter gives me a hard time for not owning a comb or a brush.
That's the way to live, my friend. All right. Then you end up working at an ad agency in London. You start working with packaged good companies, and something strikes you about it. What is it about packaged goods that excites you?
Yeah, I think like any career journey, there's just a lot of like luck and serendipity. And I started falling in love with the idea of marketing. I got an internship with an advertising agency, and they had a lot of American clients that tended to be physical products. And there was something that just struck me about how a physical product, particularly like fast-moving consumer goods, just transcends society. And there was this great photo I saw of Bill Clinton drinking a Diet Coke in the 90s. And I just thought that was so cool that anybody can drink the same beverage of the United States of America. And that's the power of these essentials. And I was also a huge fan of Richard Branson, and particularly living in London. And I just loved how he would go in and just sex up these really boring categories. And so that started to form the model of how I thought about being an entrepreneur.
I see. And you thought, hey, he's actually, what's a category that he sexed up? I'm trying to think of one that was kind of boring before.
I mean, airlines, you could argue, is
yeah.
He applied the entertainment model. But he did, especially if you're living over in the UK in the 90s, the brand was everywhere. So there was Virgin Cola and Virgin Water, Virgin Trains. And, he had a model of applying this entertainment brand to places where you wouldn't expect to find it. And I just found that really compelling, as well as like his entire lifestyle, how he lives the brand.
Yes.
I think for any entrepreneur is something that just is very motivating.
I see. And so you said, look, what are some boring brands that nobody has sexed up, that nobody's paid attention to? And I could see how soap would be one of them. What's another one that you considered but you didn't get into?
I've been fascinated with pizza. And pizza is just it's a great margin product, especially if you cut it into slices. And again, it's something that transcends every element of society. It's a social lubricant, how it brings people together.
Yeah.
So that one has always been kind of on my hit list of like, how do you reinvent the entire pizza experience? I haven't figured it out yet.
It's interesting. So now you've given me a new way to look at the world. As I'm walking around today and later this week, I could totally see myself saying, what here have I not been paying attention to because it's boring and it's not interesting? And I think I could just, not that I'm getting into physical products, but I want to see the world the way you see it. And now I've understood it.
Yeah, and I always believed that, coming as a marketer, I looked at everything through a brand lens and just started to fall in love with the idea that there's no such thing as a boring category. There's just boring brands. And I started to develop this model, which was a really simple idea of like find a really tired category, figure out the cultural shift that category missed, and in between was the business opportunity. And that's so much where Method came from, where Adam and I figured out like both lifestyling of the home and sustainability. These were massive cultural shifts that this industry was missing. You had these products that were, so ugly, you hid it underneath the sink, out of sight, out of mind. And then you polluted when you clean, or you use poison to make your home healthier. And neither of that, and we were living kitty corner in San Francisco from a Whole Foods. So you could really see these macro trends coming from a mile away. And what we were doing, we just thought was painfully obvious.
What's the cultural shift that you noticed?
For me, it started first with lifestyling of the home. And this was back in like 99, 2000 when I started playing with this idea that nobody thought about these products as accessories to your home, that they could be, you look at a dish soap more than you ever use it. So why shouldn't it feel more like a housewares product? And at the end of the day, the fragrance is going to be so meaningful to the overall experience. So why doesn't it smell more like a personal care product versus, at the time, lemon dominated? So we thought of lots of different ways that we can mix up that whole experience.
What do you think about the reverse? So TMI, but it's applicable. I'm wearing a Y Athletics underwear that was given to me by a past interviewee who said, clothing is just too complicated. It's too much about design. I'm going to make it a little more simplistic and maybe more boring by giving you just one kind of underwear to wear, one kind of t-shirt, one kind of running shorts. What do you think of that? Do you think that the opposite also could apply?
Totally. So I think, first of all, my brother started a brand called Mr. Muse underwear, which we need to send to you.
Okay.
Secondly, I think it's all about, finding attention and solving a paradox for the consumer. So in that case, you're right. Like, it's an area where you want to think less about, but I would argue what they're solving for you is they're allowing you to think less about it. They're simplifying it, which in end is a better experience. But it's a better experience probably because it's a much better product.
I see. Okay. All right. It is. You know what? I do like that there's improvements in underwear. I feel for a long time, male underwear was just boxers, which were uncomfortable, or briefs, which were not comfortable either. I like that we're rethinking it for men. All right. So what you're saying is, look, I noticed a cultural shift. People are starting to have this emotional connection to their home and the things in their home. It wasn't just like a functional thing. And also, in the culture, you're seeing that people care more about health and sustainability. And I've noticed that too, of course, where companies now won't hand out bottled water because it's bad for the environment. They'll say, use one of these cups that you can drink out of our water cooler, kind of going back in time with that. I see. And you said, all right, this is where I could come in. Now, once you have that idea, what do you do to actually take it and make it into a business? So the way I love coaching entrepreneurs, and the first thing I always recommend, I was having a conversation with somebody last night who was working on ideas, like first of all, don't worry about creating a company. Your first thought is to come up with what you think is a great idea. And prove to yourself it's a great idea. Fall in love with it. Then figure out, can I get other people to fall in love with this idea? So what I did for Method and with Ollie is I wrote what I call the concept book, which just brought the idea to life. And then I gave it to the 20 smartest people I knew from a diverse set of backgrounds. And I didn't tell them, like, tell me if it's good or tell me if it's bad. I said, shoot holes in this. Come back and tell me all the reason this will fail, and really giving them permission to find a reason not to move forward. And then when people came back and they couldn't really find a viable reason not to move forward, that gave the confidence to go, okay, still we're not starting a company, but now we're going to take this idea and we're going to figure out, do consumers or do retailers feel the same about it? So you took your book to them and you said, what do you think about this? Can you shoot holes in it?
No, so it's all about, like, I think being an entrepreneur is just a journey of self-confidence and building up your confidence each step and breaking it down to these little bite-sized steps. And then it's less scary. So in the beginning, it's not about starting a company. It's about proving to yourself and to other people you have a great idea. Then it's about making that idea tangible. So whether it's creating a prototype or getting into a test market, finding a way to get a proof of concept as cheap as possible.
Okay.
Then once you've done that, before you know it, you're starting to create a company. So that's always my recommendation is in the beginning. Don't worry about starting a company. Just worry about creating a really great idea and then finding a way to commercialize it into a company gets a lot easier.
Did anyone shoot down your idea with something useful?
We heard on Method, we heard the same thing over and over. Like, if this seems so obvious, why has nobody else done it? And there's, some of the largest multinationals in the world are in this category. And that was always the scary proposition, was it seemed, same thing with Ollie, like in a lot of ways, it just seemed a little too obvious that someone else would have done it. And so it's just getting over that sense of self-confidence that, like, no, you found a way to frame the category that no one else has. And the best ideas are the most obvious ideas, right? Because they catch on quickly with consumers.
What about the idea that, you could come up with this, it would make sense, and then anyone else can jump into your space?
Yeah, and I think that's like such a common response from VCs and private equity of like, is it defendable? And, ideas are easy, execution is hard. And there's always a risk of that. And you see it too in this age where capital is easier to raise. And I always tell people to watch out for the brand sandwich, where you start to build something that feels viable. You get squeezed from the legacy players that copy you from the top, and then you get squeezed from all the other startups that get funded from below. And so it really comes back to a great idea is going to get copied. If it's not a good idea, it won't get copied. So you got to face the reality it will get copied. And that comes down to really great execution and pacing your growth the right way, but also taking every opportunity to create as much differentiation as possible to make it hard to copy you. So on both Method and Ollie, we didn't want to create things that someone could do a line extension to get to us. The only way you're going to copy us is you had to create an entire brand from scratch, because both of these were bigger than product ideas. They were brand philosophies and a product expression that was very unique to the whole category.
I see. So if Palmolive at the time would have seen that you came out with this new design and sustainable approach to creation, they would have to create a new design which would confuse their customers, and their new people wouldn't necessarily buy it. It wouldn't feel authentic to it. And they would have to communicate that they are creating something that's good for the environment, good for the person using it. And again, that's a hard sell. And it counters what they're doing already. I see. So they have to create a brand new product in order to communicate that philosophy.
Yeah. So if you create a brand off of only a product idea, it's really easy to copy. If you create it off a broader brand philosophy, it's hard. Consumers will give you permission for knocking off products. They won't give you permission for knocking off brands.
Wait, they won't give you? Oh, really? So if Colgate decided Colgate Palmolive owns some of your competitors. If they decided we're going to copy Method and duplicate their design and duplicate their philosophy, consumers will say no. Why do you think they'll say no? I don't want that.
Because it really flies in the face of authenticity. So probably a really simple example would be like Jeep. Consumers will ask car companies, when are you coming out with your SUV or your 4x4? But if you started behaving the way the Jeep brand behaved, consumers would reject that. It's almost like an uncanny valley of like authenticity. Or if you came out when everybody copied Ben & Jerry's of creating pint ice cream, because Ben & Jerry's was the first to do it because they couldn't afford to sell you a full brick. Everybody copied the pint as a product idea. But if you came out an ice cream that was based off of hippie values, consumers would have rejected that.
They would have thought that you are faking it, and then that goes against what they're lured into Ben & Jerry's ice cream for. I get it. I didn't know. By the way, you've been mentioning the word Ollie or the brand name Ollie. This is your new supplement and vitamins business. Is that right? Not that new.
What Method is to the home, this is to the body in the form of nutrition.
All right, let me take a moment to talk about my sponsor. It's a company called ActiveCampaign, and I'm going to be honest. You guys use a competitor of ActiveCampaign. Even though they didn't pay me, I'm going to say the name of the competitor. You guys use Sail-Through. Do you know Sail-Through? I'm imagining this is not a part of the business you pay much attention to.
I do not.
What Sail-Through that you guys use does behaviorally targeted emails. And that's what ActiveCampaign does. What ActiveCampaign does is says, hey, you know what? If somebody's coming to my site, in fact, if you used ActiveCampaign, you'd be able to say, hey, there's some people who all they care about is Ollie. Why are we telling them about dishwasher and a dish soap? Maybe they don't even have dishes in their homes. They just care about their health. We're noticing that that's what they click on in emails. We're noticing that's where they are on their website. That's what we're going to tell them about, the Ollie story, the Ollie discounts, the Ollie experience. And if they care only about soap, then maybe you spend more time on soap and lightly transition them into Ollie. That's what smart email marketing does today. Now, you guys use Sail-Through to do that. I looked up Sail-Through because I never heard of them. The fact is they have a lot of features that are fantastic, but it's relatively hard to use, I'm going to say. I'm looking here at a review here that says that it's a tough product, which is fine because you're not using it yourself, Eric. You probably have a team of people at this point. You're a huge company. The thing is that anyone who's listening to me who wants that kind of power needs software that they could use or their virtual assistant could use or their marketing team could use and easily take advantage of all the features and easily transition it to a new person on the team who needs to take hold of marketing automation. Otherwise, it never gets used. And so that's what ActiveCampaign said. They said, we're going to take this power that the big guys have and we're going to reduce the cost. I saw Sail-Through isn't even listing how much it costs online. You have to talk to them to get the price because high-end product. They're going to reduce the cost, make it accessible, make it available to entrepreneurs so that you do not have to run Method in order to use this kind of marketing automation power. Anyone can. And I urge you guys to go check them out and try them for yourself. You will see your audience, your readers are going to love that you are addressing them based on what you know about them instead of sending them the same generic newsletter that you send everyone else. All you have to do is go to this one URL. When you go there, you're going to see a simple flowchart that will tell you in one image exactly how you can target people properly based on what they've done. One image tells you exactly what you should do with marketing automation. It's at the bottom right side of the page that I'm about to give you. And that page is activecampaign.com/Mixergy. When you go there, they're going to give you a free trial. They're going to make your second month free. They're going to give you 2 free one-on-ones with their consultant so you can see exactly how to implement this philosophy, this technique in your business. 2 of those. So you talk to one person, you learn, you implement, you come back and you talk again to make sure that you're checking in and you're using it all properly. And if you're using a different email software, they'll migrate you for free. activecampaign.com/Mixergy. And feel free to compare it, by the way, to Sail-Through if you want to. Sail-Through is Sailthru. I'm very proud of my sponsor, and I'm happy to talk about anyone else because I know that if you compare, you're going to be happy with ActiveCampaign. Eric, how was that?
Sounds good. Sounds like I need to check it out.
Yeah. I was looking around. I said, well, maybe he's using this, maybe he's not. And I said, now that I looked in it, I'm not going to pretend I don't know what he's doing. Okay, what's in a concept book? I've never seen a concept book. I've never put one together. What is in it, this thing that you showed everyone?
Yeah, I think it's unique since my classical training was as a marketer and strategy, and I look at everything as a brand first and a business second. So the way I'd write up concept books is I'd write up, first of all, the opportunity, like here's a sandbox. Here's why we think this category is attractive. Here's how the insight of the cultural shift that we think is the opportunity to disrupt this category, and then laying out here's how we would execute against it. So pretty simple thesis. And it's kind of the first test. If you can get it down to that level of clarity of opportunity, insight, execution, that's and if when you're done writing the concept book, if you're not super fired up yourself to go do it, that's kind of the first test.
What's the first product that you decided to come out with, or collection of products?
So for Method, it was our surface cleaners. So we went after like an all-purpose cleaner, glass, shower. We had a suite of 4 products that we originally launched, which are still on the market today. I'm proud to say.
Why that? Why not hand soap, which is more personal and people might be willing to experiment more with?
So the hand soap came third after the dish soap. I think originally we didn't see as much white space there because we were looking at the really boring cleaning category. And there was actually a buyer at Target who saw what we did with the surface cleaners. We had just launched this soap, and she came to us and pitched the idea. She's like, I think there's an opportunity here. And sat down with Karen Rashid in a cafe, sketched the teardrop. 6 months later, we were in stores, and it just became an instant hit.
Yeah, because it looks nice. And I like the foaming soap. I believe that foaming is the only way to go. I don't hate to be dogmatic about it, but I believe it's the only way to go because with foaming, you cover your hand much faster. And
the thing people don't realize is you don't have to put water on your hands before you wash. You go right foam on your hand.
I don't think of that. I thought I was actually doing it wrong by doing that.
So for kids, it's great. And we tend to get a lot of credit for inventing foaming. We didn't. I think we were the first to really make it acceptable for adults. It was kids' product before us.
Okay, so you say, I'm going to do surface products this is where I think there's white space. This is the boring area that I'm going to jazz up. And you decided not to call it surface cleaners. Why not? Why is that an important distinction?
We wanted to simplify everything. So if you're buying a kitchen cleaner, here's kitchen, here's bathroom, here's like really setting it up, and kind of going back to the underwear example, just taking the friction out of it. And these are low involvement categories. You don't want to think more. We want you to feel something. We want you to fall in love and have an emotional connection to our products, but we don't want you also have to think too hard on how to use them. So wherever we could just simplify it and make it intuitive, we did.
The design came from where?
So the original design, we worked with a local designer here, Michael Rutschek, and we didn't have much money. So Adam, my co-founder, would be holding a sink from Home Depot that we then quickly returned the sink afterwards to save the money. So we used ourselves as models in the first product. And again, it was just in the spirit of creating something, getting it on shelf, test, learn, test, learn. And then from there, we raised our Series A, and we hired Karen Rashid to help us with the industrial design and really try to bring more of that element. And it goes back to what we were saying of being copied. And our belief was if we had a design that was more graphically led, it would be a lot easier to knock us off. But industrial design, you've got to actually like cut steel, build a mold. That is much more cost prohibitive. And it was true. It was really hard for any other startup to copy us because of that.
Did one of the first products come basically as a copy of some camping water bottle that you saw?
Yeah, I found we couldn't afford. So typically when you start packaged goods, you do what's called stock packaging. There's companies out there with huge catalogs of generic packaging. And it's what most people do. So you buy that, and then you graphically label it to look like your product. And we looked through the catalog, and I was very particular about design. I couldn't find anything that I thought really felt right. And we couldn't afford an industrial designer at the time. So I found this bottle in Norway, and so we used that as the role model for our first spray cleaner. And then it's been redesigned in-house, and it's a different bottle.
I remember talking with Tom from TerraCycle like 9 years. Do you know them?
Oh, yeah, Tom's great. I mean, come on, worm poop. Like, that's the best story.
What's the worm poop story?
Fertilizer.
That's what he was selling. I forget that. You know what I think of him for? The bags that are basically like upcycled products. So you can see the products that they were made from.
Yeah, we partnered with him, but his first product was worm poop that was fertilizer.
I forgot about that. It has been a long time. And one of the things that I remember stood out for me was he said, look, when you create something that's good, you think people are going to buy it because it's good for the world, and nobody cares. It has to be good for them and good for the world. And at times people think that they're in conflict, that if I'm buying something that's good for the world, it's going to be crappy for me. If I'm buying something that's crappy for me, it's going to be good for the world. You noticed that same thing too when you guys started, didn't you?
We did. And we had a problem, which was, so imagine you're writing a business plan. And you're saying, we're going to take on the likes of Unilever and Clorox and P&G, who I like to call P and the motherfucking G. And these guys got a 150-year head start. They're some of the largest multinationals in the world. And two guys in a dirty flat in San Francisco are going to take them on. That's not a very compelling business plan. And then you say, we're going to do it in the category of green cleaners, which was a pimple of a pimple on the industry. So we had to solve a problem, which was the only way this business plan made sense is we had to grow the green category, which means we had to get people into a natural product who didn't care to get a natural product. And the way we did that is we tried to make it really selfish. And we wanted to give you a very narcissist reason for buying it. And that's the role of design and the fragrance and the branding and the fun of it. So we would have people who essentially what would happen is they would see it on shelf because of the design. They would buy it, they would smell it in stores, so they'd buy it because of the fragrance. They would get home, use it, see that it works, eventually turn the bottle around and see that it's good for them, good for the planet. And that's what helped kind of create this cult following, and that's what drove a lot of the loyalty. And when you talk to method customers, you'll find two different camps. You'll find people who could care less about the environmental credentials of it. They just love the whole design experience of it. And then you find people who really don't care too much about the design, but they love the fact that our commitment to sustainability and human health. And that's rare to find in a single product. I think Todd Waterbury, who's the creative director of Target, says it really well. It's that intersection between narcissism and altruism, and giving people a reason to buy it for themselves, but also has this halo that it's good for society as a whole. And that's a beautiful formula when you can get it right.
Looking at early versions of your cleaners, the company started 2001. The first things that you had were bathroom, kitchen, glass, and shower. And you're like showing a sink in there. The design is nice, but it's still on the nose, where now it's more a part of your house, and you don't have to see a picture that tells you where to put it in the house. The other thing that stands out is you guys used to have a period before your company name.
We did. So in our original kind of naming structure, our thought is everything would be .method. And it was a little .com inspired, or the only other brand that really does this is For Dummies. So our thought was there'd be kitchen method, bathroom method, dish method, hand method. But what happened was it just looked too clunky on a label, because method itself, when isolated, was just such a great word. It was a more powerful mark. But then we kept the dot just as a little visual distinction. So that's part of our history still.
I see. That's why it's there. Okay. It seems like the next thing that came out was dish soap. I'm just following along on Internet Archive to see what you guys added to your site. Is that right?
Yeah. So dish was our next product, which we did the hair machine, what we call the bowling pin.
Yeah, so it looks like a bowling pin, and you kind of squeeze it down. I see a picture. You guys did a great job explaining what this looks like on your website. How did that do when you launched it?
It did not. It was not a commercial success, but if we could go back in a time machine, we would do it all over again.
Why?
I don't think the company would have been here without it. So for those of you who haven't seen it, our insight was that when you go to use dish soap, you flip it over. And so what we wanted to do was take away that motion where it dispenses from the bottom. And so this was the first product that we had ever seen that was a mass product that had bottom dispensing. Now, like there's ketchups and there's other products that do it, but we were the very first. And so what happened was we put it on shelf. The fragrances were really unique in their day. So consumers would go to smell it, and they would rip off the bottom in a way it wasn't really intended to come off. And then they would go to put it back on, and it really didn't snap back on well. So we'd walk in, and this was during our target test for national distribution. We had to pass this test. And I would just find these end caps where it's just raining dish soap down. So that was a problem. We fixed that over time. But it was a very expensive bottle to make and to fill. And so it was retailing for $5, which at a very poor margin. So commercially, it was never a success. But what it did, which is our intention, is we wanted to signal to retailers, to consumers, to the press, to investors, our seriousness of disrupting this category. And it made such a design statement that it really put us on the map, and it got people to take us more seriously than I think they would have otherwise. And also just the press from it was really remarkable. And we should eventually bring back an anniversary edition for it, because we wouldn't be here today if it weren't for that product.
I just did a search for it. I'm seeing tons of articles about it, and patents from Google's patent search on it. You guys got a patent on it, I'm assuming? We
did, yeah. We have a couple patents, but that's one of them.
I see links to books that talk about it. Yeah. So now you guys have a more standard pump. Here's my one problem with you guys. The pump has the pump points towards the person who's using the soap, right? If there's a little bit of soap there, or someone screwed up, or you press too hard, it squirts on your shirt. Instead of pointing down the way that most do, so that you point down into and I hardly ever do the dishes, but when I do, I want it pointing into the sponge. You've seen this before. You're smiling at some recognition. Am I right?
So I've sat through a lot of long meetings as we're trying to dial this in and get it right. And we do all of our products in-house, and we have an amazing team of formulators and packaging engineers and designers. So we scrutinize every little detail about our products, which is why I'm laughing, and we were stuck with this dilemma. If the velocity came out too soft, then it wasn't as good of an experience because it could just like drip over. But if it came out too strong, then it would shoot across the room. And our first version of it did come out even stronger than today, and we got dialed in. But because it was designed to pick up and squirt, And most people, what they do is they pick it up, they squirt it into the sponge, or they squirt it directly into a pan or a dish or a sink. They're holding it when they squirt it. That's what is really designed to work best. And then what we found is people who probably do the dishes a bit more than you do, after they've done it a few times, they quickly figure out how to operate it the best way.
I just have to remember, I put it like right up like I'm smothering the thing. All right. I always wanted to tell you that, you know what, as a guy who uses it, I got to confront the founder and just bring this thing up, point it down. I get now why you do it. I also never lift it up. What I'll do is I'll pull it towards the edge of the sink and then press down as a way of avoiding that. All right. You started talking a little bit about Target. Let's talk about distribution and build up to Target. The first set of stores that got it, was it you going in, knocking door to door, saying, I made this new thing. It's for your kitchen. It's for your bathroom. Is that what it was?
Yeah. So again, kind of going back to that thesis that it's all about de-risking along the way and getting proof of concept. So we followed the classic entrepreneur story, which was once we created prototypes that we felt we were excited about, we could see through some research people were excited about, we went door to door to get distribution. So we chose, there's about 30 Bay Area stores here in San Francisco. You would know them as like Molly Stone's and Toronto's, where the manager can make the buying decision. And you have to go in at 6 a.m. when they're setting up for the day. You find this really grumpy store manager. You got about his attention span for 15 seconds to pitch your idea. And essentially they agree to take it only because they know you're going to keep showing up and asking. And we built up our little paper route. So we had 30 stores, and then we used that to measure how it was performing. Once we had proof of concept, then we went to the regional grocery stores. So that would be like Safeway, NorCal, Albertsons, Phoenix region. And we built that up regionally. It's about 800 stores. And then we went to Target to sell it into them nationally. So each step, we just kept building it up and de-risking along the way. Is
it you doing it? Is it you personally, Eric, going in and it is?
Oh, yeah. Adam and I did it. Both of us did it.
Going into, I know Molly Stone's, and it's this little place in the Castro, and I know they've got other locations, and they would just take your stuff, put it on the shelf, and if you saw that it wasn't selling well, would you walk up to someone and say, hey, I noticed you just passed up my soap. Why? No problem. Did you do anything like that?
So we did. We didn't have any marketing support, so we promised what's called store demos. So that's when you're in a grocery store or Costco and somebody's doing tastings. That's a demo. So I would do the demos myself, and I would use it as a form of research to get real-time feedback. And I could watch how somebody, and I came, in advertising, I did research, so I could see body language and understand how people were reacting to the product. But yeah, we would go sell it in, and then we would hand deliver it each week. So Adam and I would take turns driving to the store. You go in, you count how many are sold, you replace them on shelf, you write up a little invoice, you give it to the manager. And we knew nothing about how, Adam was a chemist, I was an ag geek. We knew nothing about how do you make and sell a product. So it's a great way for us to really understand how retail operates by learning it from the ground up.
I told our producer I would get there at 6 a.m. before the store opened, and I would do my 30-second pitch to try to get it in there. I'm wondering, I get how your pitch would improve because you're watching them, because you're saying I'm not going to leave until I get this, or they know that because they see the determination. But how would you improve based on what you saw people doing with your product in the store? It's not like software where you can come in and tweak the colors or tweak the features. What would you do to improve based on the research you were collecting?
No, and there was not, you're right, there's not much we could do. We could make adjustments to the label. It was more about how we told the story. We realized that we needed to continue to play up. In the beginning, we had to really play up the fragrance. At the time, in 2001, if you dropped into even Andronico's and you asked most people, hey, do you believe green cleaners work? Majority of consumers out there saw that as a barrier. Like, oh, if it's green or it's natural, it's not going to work. It's not like I need scorched earth to clean my house.
Yes.
Yeah. That worldview has shifted dramatically to the belief of clean is not only what it removes from your surfaces, but what you're actually putting on your surfaces by what chemicals are in this product. So over time, we were able to start taking our green credentials and putting it on the front of the bottle. But in the beginning, we realized, like, nope, we got to keep those in the back of the bottle.
And just watching people helped you understand that.
Yes, exactly.
You know what? That is true. So our cleaning people accidentally left their bleach, the Clorox bleach spray. I used it a couple of times, and I watch a look on people's face when I do it to like clean up the baby's the thing that the baby eats off of the tray. People look like I'm child abusing them, right? The kid right in front of them. At what point did that change? And was it that you picked up on a cultural change and you were going to ride that, or were you part of it? Is it the kind of thing basically that I'm wondering, can you influence it, or do you have to watch it and jump on it properly?
You know that phrase, timing is everything?
Uh-huh.
It's just that. And the way I think about it, a major macro trend like that, it's a wave coming into the beach, and you got to ride that surf just right. If you're too far ahead, you get rolled over. If you're too far back, you get left behind. And we were really conscious to really try to ride that wave the best we could. And I think 2008, some of the inconvenient truth coming out, you start to see more of a tipping point, but it's still a trend line that's got huge legs and is going to continue to evolve for quite some time.
All right, now let me take a moment to talk about my sponsor, then come back and talk about Target, because that's where you guys were put on my radar. Target basically did a whole song and dance to show how they were the design company, and the reason that they were is because they had method, and that's when I started to see method really just in my life a lot. This must have been before I married Olivia. Once I married Olivia, all this stuff just gets beaten into me. Gentle. She's a gentle hippie, but she has to make her point of view very clear. The sponsor is a company called Toptal. Toptal, for anyone who's out there who hasn't heard me talk about this, well, first of all, I'd be surprised. It's a company where when we wanted a good developer, I realized that there's a reason why Google goes through all these different hiring processes to get the best developer. What they want is somebody who won't just say, tell me what to do and I'll go do it, which is what you find on these cheapo freelance sites, but someone who can take a problem and figure out how that problem exists in the world, how they could solve the problem, and think for themselves. One of my past interviewees, the founder of Tatango, said that he had a CTO. The two of them started looking for great developers. They spent time going through dozens of decent applicants, but nobody was fantastic. They finally heard me talk about Toptal. They said, I know, Andrew, let's just give it a shot. They went to Toptal. They got two developers. They could have hired either one. They picked the one that they actually jived with, and they said, this guy is so good. He could have been the CTO. He's that quality of a person. Thinks for themselves, helps grow the business. Today, they've hired multiple people from Toptal. That's the story that I hear over and over again. So if you're out there and you're looking to hire the best of the best developer, I really urge you to go and check out Toptal. And don't look at their website. Not the homepage anyway. Go to the special URL where they're going to give Mixergy listeners 80 hours of Toptal developer credit when you pay for your first 80 hours. And that's in addition to a no-risk trial period of up to 2 weeks. That URL is toptal.com/Mixergy. Top is in top of your head. Tal is in talent. Toptal.com/Mixergy. If you've heard me talk about them for years, I just had dinner with the guy who buys ads the other day. And he told me it's working. People are signing up. They are getting good results, and they have long-term relationships with Toptal. So it's coming back here because it's working for other listeners like you. So go give them a shot if you haven't yet. Toptal.com/Mixergy. Eric, how'd you get into Target?
Target's such a great story. So this is back in 2002. It was unheard of for an early stage company to get national distribution with a major retailer like that. And my initial pitch to Target was this idea of bringing designer commodities, looking at what they were doing in the soft lines and apparel and housewares, and how can you bring that over. So we had a very senior meeting with the DMM at the time. And in the meeting, he started talking about, he's like, I'm kind of struggling with the brand name. He's like, I'm not sure about the colors. Size of the bottle seems wrong. And then he looks at us and he's like, guys, I kind of hate to say it, but it's a bit of a snowball's chance in hell. And so we're like Dumb and Dumber. You're like, so you're saying there's a chance? And we had just raised our Series A, and our entire business model was dependent on getting Target. Like, grocery is a hard place to make money. It's highly fragmented. We needed economies of scale, and so we needed a national player. Kmart was a train wreck and still is. Walmart's not necessarily the best place to launch a premium brand, and so we really needed Target to work. And as you guys know, like as an entrepreneur, often the road forward looks a lot less scary than the road backwards. And particularly when you've taken money from big, scary people who you don't want to let down. And so coming from marketing, I had some relationships on the marketing side. And I knew they had an interest in working with Karam because they just did the Philippe Stark line. And this is during their one of their big Design for All campaigns. And so we spent our last few dollars with Karam to like model out the entire line. I used Karam as a carrot to get a meeting with marketing, who then invited the buyers. Rule number 1 of retail, never go over the buyer's head. So this is total Hail Mary. Karam shows up in his full silver suit. We do our big dog and pony show. And the dish soap we were talking about, it showed up in FedEx, the first sample that morning. I had just enough time to get that filled with dish soap. Didn't even have a moment to test it. We start the meeting. I bring that part out. It was like it was like an episode of Shark Tank. It gets passed around, and the main guy squeezes it. Goes, wow! He's like, even I would use this. And that was the moment I knew we were saved. So they gave us out of it a 90-store test. They told us you got to hit this number. We're like, all right, we can do this. We get it out there on end caps. This is where it starts leaking. We're missing the number, we're passing out coupons. We're doing everything we can. We keep missing the number. And with any success story, there's so many points of good luck. And one of them was that a new buyer came on the desk. She loved how incremental it was. She loved how differentiated it was. And oh, by the way, the number they told us to hit was like what Tide does on end cap on sale. It was not possible to hit that number. And they gave us national distribution, and we'll do over $100 million of sales at Target this year just on Method alone.
$100 million now. That's not your overall company revenue. Now that's just your Target revenue from Target, the retailer.
That's retail sales at Target will be over $100 million.
Wow, I see. Right, because they're paying less than that. What's your overall revenue today?
We're a private company, so we do not share it out.
Can you ballpark it? Because you did at one point. You used to tell Inc. magazine, didn't you?
Yeah, we used to, and we decided to keep as the numbers have been going up. We're past the point of credibility, so internally we decided to keep it.
What was
private.
the height that you told Inc.? I forget.
We talked about it when we crossed the $100 million sales, and our sales to retailers. When we crossed that $100 million mark, we shared and celebrated that. But
what year was that?
Kept it confidential. Ooh, that was back in. That was like 4 or 5 years ago. 4 years ago.
You know, one of the hard parts about researching you is the name Method. The word Method comes up all the time. I could do Method Inc. magazine and come up with but the official company name is what?
People Against Dirty.
People Getting Started.
No, People Against Dirty.
Oh, People Against Dirty.
Yeah.
How'd you come up with that?
So it was an original tagline that Crispin Porter came up with, and we love the double meaning of dirty. So dirty could, of course, be the grease and grime on your counters, but also dirty chemicals, dirty business practices, dirty politics. And we love the idea that who we are, we're people against dirty, and who we create for are our consumers. We think of people against dirty. We love that intersection. And one of the things we're most proud of, we built our first plant a couple of years ago in the south side of Chicago. And the entire plant is about being branded People Against Dirty.
I see. And then the company on the site, it says Copyright Method Products PBC. So
yeah, Public Benefit Corporation.
You guys became one of the early B Corps.
Yeah, we were a founding B Corp member, and it's something we really helped try to champion. We're a big believer in the triple bottom line and setting up corporate governance the right way.
What does it mean that you're a B Corp?
So essentially the way a traditional corporation is set up is it's about serving the shareholders. And if you make a decision theoretically that is not in the best interest of the shareholders, so you do something that's better for society as a whole or government, you could be sued by your shareholders. What a B Corp does is it says that you are actually required to take care of all shareholders, which are not only your financial shareholders, but it's also the environment as well as society as a whole. And it's the triple bottom line idea.
I know that there's some people who don't I won't say some people. Fred Wilson, you know him, the venture capitalist. He's written about how he doesn't think this makes sense, especially not because it makes it harder to go public, right? That's the challenge.
Not necessarily. No, we don't see that at all. My lunch is being delivered.
Somebody needs to use a TP.
No, it's like what? I'm doing an interview. Yeah, no, and Kevin Leary too. We've had some fun exchanges on this, and the big believer that an organization should be giving profits back to its investors, and then those investors should decide how they ultimately give those up to society. We disagree with it because I think if you look at what we're doing in Chicago with our plant, like we're about creating a ripple effect in the industry. And so when we went to go build our plant, we wanted to be nothing more than an expression of our mission, our values. So where it is, what we make, how we make it, and who we make it with. All of it is around that. So we built the first plant in the inner city of Chicago to be built in 35 years. We put it where the jobs were needed, where we could hire from the local community. But then we created the most environmental facility created to date as certified by LEED. So it's got its own, wind turbines, solar trees, and then that area's a food desert. So we partner with Gotham Greens, and we have the world's largest rooftop greenhouse sitting on top of it. And what's most remarkable when you come into the plant, it's not only an expression of the brand, and you see men driving pink forklifts, but when you walk in, it's the people that really make the difference. And I've never seen a plant where people hug each other so much. And typically, we're big believers in culture, and you'll have a culture in most companies where the front office and the factory floor are very different cultures. And at Method, it is just one culture, and that's probably the thing that we're most proud of.
You strike me as someone who's really confident. You're going against a trend of companies needing to take care of their shareholders first. You go against these major companies like P&G, and still you do, and you have talked about having self-doubt, being challenged to keep up the self-confidence. When is it that it's most challenging for you? And then what do you do to bring yourself back from doubt and to bring back your self-confidence?
That's such a great question, because I think that being an entrepreneur is such a head game. And you have to really find this mindset where you have to believe in what you're doing, right? Because your job as an entrepreneur is to get other people to believe in your vision. That is job number one. So to do that, you have to have confidence in it. But at the same time, like creating any successful business is successful because nobody's done it before, which means your learning curve is going to be steep, which means you're going to make tons of mistakes, which means you got to be in a mindset that you can quickly learn from your mistakes, and the ability to hire people better than you, smarter, and with areas of expertise you don't have, and to empower them. And really, I think of my job as CEO as I set up the assists, they score the goals. And it's this yin and yang of being able to do both at the same time that it's a balancing act. And so when I find myself lacking confidence in, I think I really solve it through the work. Like, I'm not somebody who spends a lot of time thinking about work. Like, I like rolling up my sleeves and doing the work and solving it in the work. So like, we're working on a new product line that's going to launch next year. I can't say what it is, but it's something we've never done before. And I just had a board call this morning, and they were challenging us on some parts of it. I said, look, guys, like, we haven't done this before. When we get into this business next year, we're going to quickly launch, learn, adjust. And I think that's the magic, is being willing to, I love how Steve Jobs would always say, real artist ship. Be willing to ship a product, get it out there, but then be humble enough to know you're not going to get it right perfectly, and you're going to quickly learn, adjust. And it's that fluidity that I think is the difference between startups and big companies and how they truly innovate.
Did you do that with Ollie? Ollie, the nutrition company?
Yeah, so follow the same. Where Ollie came from was I was helping Target create their Made to Matter program, and we were identifying brands that we thought were right for these different categories, and we couldn't find anything in the nutrition aisle. So I went and walked the aisle, and I was like, oh my God, like, people are literally stressing out trying to choose something healthy for them. So that was the clue, dig here. and it's a huge, multi-billion-dollar category. And then figure out the culture shift was no one was applying lifestyle in the way that it's being applied in all of these other areas, from fitness to food. And so that was kind of the big idea, and then we broke it out. But it was developed the concept, shared it with people, shared it with Target as a couple of PowerPoint slides, high concept, and you could see people, it quickly resonated and they got behind it. But we launched just at Target initially so that we had the space to figure out what worked, what didn't work, make the adjustment before we would start scaling it further.
So when you say you make adjustments, what did you adjust, and how fast can you adjust when it's a product like that people put in their bodies?
Yeah, you're right. Like if you're writing code, man, like so much easier to quickly do that. So for us, we had a thesis about what we thought would resonate, and it did play out, but we wanted to put a broad enough line out there that we'd have lots of opportunities to learn. So one of the things we learned is anything that was more focused on prevention. So we had like a heart product, a joint product. Those really didn't resonate. Where the more lifestyle with acute benefits, sleep, stress, that really, really worked well. We had both gummies and capsules. Gummies took off, the capsules didn't. And we learned too that we were so worried about getting that intersection of being differentiated and relevant, and by relevant that people would believe it would work. That was a tough intersection. And the first day we set in stores, we already had consumers walking through, doing store walks with us to understand how they were responding to it in a retail environment. And we learned we could be a lot more expressive. So you'll see our labels we've just dialed up the fun more and more on our labels going forward. So lots of little things like that.
When you're walking with a customer saying, just walk me through how you go through the store, talk out loud, I'm going to watch you as you do it. Is that what it is?
Yeah, so we'll hire a research company because we don't want to be doing it ourselves. We want a third party. And that's right. You recruit people that fit who you see as your audience, and you interview them walking through the store. And so you understand how they would react to it in that environment.
I've never heard of that. That makes sense. But didn't it exist? So I'm looking at, what is it? Amping Up Innovation, Made to Matter, handpicked by Target. They had a couple of companies, like they had the Honest Company in their launch, didn't they? And doesn't the Honest Company make nutritional products?
They did. When they launched, they didn't have the nutritional products at the time.
I see.
So we did Made to Matter year one, and then a year later, Ollie launched on Made to Matter as a platform, which was, for me, was really exciting to kind of see that, how quickly it all came together. But our belief was that Made to Matter would be an entrepreneurial platform to accelerate early stage brands to the benefit of Target driving innovation for the guest.
All right, let me close out with this. One of the things that I notice as I look at newer articles about this space is that the older companies are recognizing it. I'm looking at an article on the Morning Call. It says, P&G under pressure as eco-friendly products surge. P&G, I guess, makes Tide. Yeah, right? So you're smiling. You see this a lot. They're jumping into this. There's a reference to Seventh Generation being bought out by one of your competitors. The Honest Company is in here. What do you do when suddenly this thing that made you so different is part of the industry?
It's what we wanted. And the way Adam and I always thought about it was we wanted to be change agents, and we wanted to create a ripple effect. And our belief was if our mission was about getting as many bad chemicals out of the consumer distribution as possible, we'd be hypocrites if we didn't want people to follow our lead. And I think what it really comes back to is creating a culture of innovation. Yep, you can copy our products, you can copy our ads, you can copy our copy, but what you can't copy is our people and our culture. And creating that culture of innovation is what essentially creates this very sustainable business. And very early on at Method, and even here at Ollie, we put a lot of thought into bringing together the best possible talent and creating a culture where they can thrive and keep us ahead of competition. That's at the heart of everything we do.
And these are two different companies you said in here at Ollie. Ollie, I'm looking at Ollie's website at ollie.com. It says Ollie Public Benefit Corporation. So it's its own corporation.
It is, yeah. There are two separate companies. We've got board members who sit on both boards. We've got some ownership that goes back and forth. Adam's an investor in Ollie, but they are two completely separate companies.
Completely separate companies. And are you a bigger investor than Adam? Do you spend more of your time now at Ollie?
Yes, Adam has his own new startup called Ripple, which is an alternative to dairy-based milk. If you check it out, it's a pretty cool product. So Adam and I both, we got to the point a few years ago where I think it's important as an entrepreneur to be scared at work. And I love to be challenged. And Method wasn't scary anymore because we have such a talented team. It's grown into a much bigger business. And I love being part of it and continuing to cheer it on and helping out where I can. But I needed to get back to a blank sheet of paper and just be scared. And that was why I decided to take on the challenge of a new startup. And Adam felt the same way with Ripple. So we both worked together on Method at a much later touch. And then we both have our new startups that we go to work every day just a little bit more scared.
And this new business is going to be part of Method, Ollie, or something else on its own?
No, Ripple's a completely standalone business as well. But we have
no, I mean the new one that you're going to launch next year that you didn't want to tell me what it is yet.
Oh, no, that's a new product line inside of Ollie.
Inside of Ollie, I see. Yeah. Wow. So you're freaking out. You don't look like a guy who's freaking out. You look like a guy who's happy, who's swinging in this new office space that you just got a few days ago.
Yeah, we're in the Presidio here for people who know San Francisco. We wanted to be in a national. I mean, we get to work in a national park, and something that represented the lifestyle of what we're building and the culture that we're trying to bring to life.
Well, cool. I'm now on Ollie's website. Stuff looks really gorgeous as always. Even the boxes that you ship stuff in look so good that you show it off, I think, on your homepage or on the shopping page. What I like about it, my mouth's watering because I didn't have lunch yet. What I like is that the protein drink is vegetarian, and I don't eat meat, so it's nice to have a vegetarian option that actually I could take, that I could try. Thanks so much for doing this interview.
No, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Cool. The website, of course, is actually, it is not, I was going to say, of course, Ollie isn't, of course, it's just ollie.com. But for Method, the website is methodhome.com, right? Not Method Products?
There was Method Design was available Method Interactive had launched before us, and they survived and thrived through the great .com boom or bust. So they have that URL, and we have Method Home.
You guys have just a beautiful design on everything. I got to put your sites away when I look. Like, the first thing that gets me is this beautiful video of a dog that you somehow captured in slow motion on methodproducts.com, flinging off dirt. I don't know. Every little bit of what you guys touch just looks so freaking good. All right. And the two sponsors are Toptal for hiring developers. Go check them out at toptal.com. And if you want to email marketing automation done right, go check out activecampaign.com/Mixergy. Eric, thanks so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Bye, everyone. All right.